Thanksgiving this year turned into a nightmare. My sister somehow found out I was sitting on roughly $12 million, and within minutes the entire family was circling like sharks, insisting that Rachel deserved the money far more than I ever could. Quick note before we dive in. If you're enjoying these stories, hitting subscribe really does keep the channel alive. It's free, takes 2 seconds, and means the world. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now back to the story. Throwaway for obvious reasons, and a few tiny details tweaked so nobody can pinpoint me. I'm 38 now, and I just need to vent. You know those families where one kid is basically a saint and the other is furniture? That was my childhood in a nutshell. Up until I was 8, everything felt normal enough. I was an only child. My parents weren't the cuddly type, but they showed up. Mom sat with me while I did spelling homework. Dad sometimes took me out on the boat on Lake St. Clair. We weren't storybook perfect, but we were okay. Then one night everything flipped upside down. I was jolted awake at 2 a.m. by Aunt Kelly pounding on the door, telling me to throw clothes in a bag because Mom was in the hospital. My sister was coming 2 months early, and something was seriously wrong. The next few weeks were a blur of NICU visits and whispered adult conversations I wasn't supposed to hear. Rachel was tiny, looked more like a doll than a baby, hooked to wires and machines. They wouldn't let me anywhere near her. That's when the invisible wall went up between me and everyone else. When they finally brought her home, our house became a medical-grade clean room. Mom was terrified of germs. Bleach fumes 24/7, sanitizer pumps on every counter, constant scrubbing. The smell of Clorox still makes my stomach turn. Anytime I so much as sniffled, I was immediately shipped off to Grandma Marie's or Aunt Kelly's. A single sneeze and I was packing an overnight bag. At first I liked it. Grandma baked. Aunt Kelly had shelves of mystery novels, but kids figure things out fast. I wasn't going on fun sleepovers. I was being quarantined because my very presence was seen as a biohazard to the precious baby. I tried everything to earn a sliver of normal attention. Straight A report cards? Mom barely glanced up from Rachel's pulmonologist schedule. First place at the science fair with a solar-powered water filtration system? Dad asked if I could keep the project in the garage because Rachel had suddenly developed an allergy to poster board dust. Spoiler: that is not a real allergy. The lowest point came when I was 12. I had spent months teaching myself Bridge Over Troubled Water on piano for the school talent show. The night of the performance, Rachel ran a 99.1 fever. Guess whose entire row of seats stayed empty? 2 weeks later, the whole extended family, grandparents included, turned out for Rachel's 15-minute flute massacre of hot cross buns. By 7, Rachel had outgrown every actual medical issue, but she had mastered the art of weaponized fragility. Headache? Stay home from school. Tired? Someone else, me, does her chores. Big test coming up? Mom calls the school and gets extensions. I retreated to my bedroom. Rachel decided she was allergic to my lavender room spray, so at least it stayed a Rachel-free zone. Weirdly, when she faked being sick, part of me was relieved. I'd get exiled to Grandma's, where someone actually asked how my day went. Grandma Marie was the one bright spot. She let me sort and catalog her massive costume jewelry collection, and that's where the obsession started. The worst part wasn't even the blatant favoritism. It was the constant revisionist history. Rachel just needs extra because of her rough start. Sarah has always been so independent. Sarah understands her sister has special needs. I didn't understand. I was a kid wondering why having a normal immune system made me less worthy of love. But it forced me to become self-reliant fast. When nobody checks your math homework or cheers at your swim meet, you learn to be your own hype squad. High school for most people is drama central. For me, it was a launch pad. While Rachel built her middle school popularity empire, I was plotting my exit strategy. Being invisible has perks. No one notices when you sign up for everything. I waitressed at Carson's Diner after school. Shout out to Carol, the owner, who actually remembered my birthday when my parents forgot. I joined debate, became National Honor Society president, edited the school paper. Debate was where I finally found my voice. There's something delicious about calmly dismantling someone's argument. I won state twice. Both times my parents missed it because Rachel had a soccer game. She rode the bench on JV. Junior year I scored a literal perfect 1600 on the SAT. I ran home buzzing. Mom was helping Rachel study English. I waved the printout. Mom, I got a perfect score. That's nice, sweetie, but quiet. Rachel's concentrating for her test tomorrow. Rachel smirked. Some of us actually have to work for it, Miss Genius. Mom soothed. Rachel, honey, you're just a different kind of smart. My perfect score never made it to the fridge. Rachel's C+ in English got a glitter sticker and prime real estate. I applied to 15 colleges in secret, wrote every essay myself, begged teachers for recommendations, filled out FAFSA alone after school with my guidance counselor Mr. Chun, legend. Acceptance letters rolled in Harvard, Yale, Princeton, full rides everywhere. I hid them in a locked box under my bed because I knew exactly what would happen if Rachel found out. Sudden tears about being abandoned. I chose University of Michigan, full tuition, room, board, books, everything covered. The day the thick envelope arrived, Rachel made JV cheer. Guess which achievement earned a family celebration dinner at Olive Garden. I ate microwave macaroni alone in my room. The night I opened that Michigan packet, I went to my favorite library window on the 4th floor, looked out over the park, and cried. Not from sadness, from pure relief. When I told my parents over dinner, Dad frowned. Michigan? That's hours away. What if Rachel needs you? Mom added, don't expect us to pay for anything. Cheer uniforms and travel are expensive. Rachel literally squealed, finally, can I have your room for my TikTok setup? That summer I worked double shifts at the diner. Carol slipped me extra tips and sent me home with leftover pie. She taught me how to spot genuine people. The loudest ones in the diner usually tip the worst. Same in life. Move-in day, my parents couldn't come. Rachel had a cheer competition. Aunt Kelly drove me, helped carry boxes, and handed me an envelope with $500. Grandma saved this from her Social Security checks. She's so proud. That first night in my dorm, I made a promise to the 8-year-old version of me who got shipped away for coughing. I was going to build a life so big no one could ever overlook me again. Not for revenge, just for her. College flew by in a whirlwind of coffee, all-nighters, and freedom. Graduated summa cum laude. My parents didn't come. They were helping Rachel switch colleges for the 3rd time. I landed an entry-level job at a high-end auction house in Detroit, name changed for anonymity, but insiders know which one. Started in estate services, cataloging dead rich people stuff. Then came the Kingston estate. Everyone assumed the late Mrs. Kingston had rooms full of costume jewelry. I was sorting through trays when an Art Deco brooch felt wrong. Too heavy, clasp too intricate. I spent lunch breaks and nights researching hallmarks. Built a whole presentation. Took it to my boss, Mr. Harrison, fully expecting to be laughed at. That costume brooch sold for $47,000. It was a rare 1920s Cartier. Harrison started throwing questionable pieces my way. My childhood hours with Grandma's jewelry boxes suddenly had value. I devoured every gemology course I could afford, turned my apartment into a research lab, and started spotting treasures others missed. Commission checks grew. For the first time, I wasn't just paying rent, I was saving. Family still had no clue. At Sunday dinners, they called it Sarah's little antique store job. Rachel loved bragging about her mall jewelry while I'd authenticated a 7-figure piece that morning. Then came the Rothschild estate massive old money collection. I flagged an Art Nouveau pendant everyone else dismissed. 3 sleepless days of research later, it sold for $238,000. Harrison called me in. I thought promotion. Instead he said, "You're too good to work for someone else. Start your own firm." I laughed. Start a business with what, my $43 savings account? But the idea burrowed in. I started moonlighting, doing private authentications. Word spread fast in the tiny world of serious collectors. One night in my cramped apartment surrounded by loupes and Hallmark books, I decided to bet on myself. I cashed out my tiny savings, took a scary loan against my paid-off car, and rented the only space I could afford. A storage room above a Chinese takeout joint that permanently smelled like General Tso's. Wi-Fi only worked if you sat on the windowsill. First months were terrifying, waking up in cold sweats doing math on how many weeks until bankruptcy. Furniture. A wobbly card table from Goodwill and a desk chair I rescued from the curb, bleached within an inch of its life. But reputation travels fast in this niche. Old contacts from the auction house sent work. I undercharged at first just to build a name. 6 months in, a collector I'd helped years earlier sent an entire Victorian parure for verification. I found 2 pieces believed lost to history. When they sold, she insisted on giving me 10%, $86,000 wired to my account. My phone exploded after that. Private collectors, estate attorneys, even my old auction house started outsourcing to me. Year 2 I hired Jenny, quiet, brilliant gemology grad who reminded me way too much of younger me. She's now my right hand. We outgrew the Kung Pao office, moved downtown, built a real lab, hired more specialists. My company became the go-to for, we think this is junk but just check. You wouldn't believe how many multimillion-dollar pieces sit in attics labeled costume. The bigger we got, the harder it became to keep my family in the dark. They still thought I worked with old jewelry. Mom introduced me as my other daughter who does something with antiques. At last year's Thanksgiving, Rachel cornered me, drunk on boxed wine, demanding I help the family because clearly my little hobby was finally making money, and she had credit card debt and deserved it more after everything she'd been through. The entire table chimed in about how I owed them for all the years they had to focus on Rachel's health. I just smiled, excused myself, and haven't spoken to any of them since. The 8-year-old who got sent away for sneezing, she's doing just fine. And no, they're not getting a single dime.